Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. I'm not only into cutting your hair, but I'm into cutting your taxes.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson, and welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned for the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet Hope, Chicago. 22 is 4, 4, 4, 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on.
Hey there, I am really Marty Levinson. Don't let anybody fool you. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at ntnm.org. Community policing, really big on that, caps24.org. Over the years, when I look at the history of the show and the different guests we've had, the man who really put us on the map was Bernie Stone by being a frequent guest. I mean, people would always come up to me and tell me, "Oh, I keep seeing you on Bernie Stone's show." But it's true.
Terry O'Brien's?
But you know what? One of my favorite guests, and certainly the person who led us to the best adventures we've had on air over the years, and a variety of them, from spending actually 2 days in the deep tunnel, although the first one was so monumental that over 100,000 of you have watched it on YouTube, and there's virtually no country in the world it hasn't been watched in. And it's a fixture in engineering libraries throughout the world, as well as a ride along the North Shore Channel. And we were hoping to skimp out one more ride before he retired, but it just didn't work out. Anyway, we're talking about the soon-to-be retiring president, which is a big loss for the Water Reclamation District, of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Terry O'Brien.
Hi, Avi. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for your kind words all over social media, letting everybody know that I'm going to be a man of, not leisure, but...
Well, I wouldn't call it leisure. You still got a wife, kids, you've got a company to
and
work
another
for.
one to put through college. So, a senior in high school. And
So you're going to be down to 70 hours a week now.
yeah, exactly. No, hopefully a little less than that.
Yeah.
I won't have to worry about weekend rainstorms anymore.
Yeah. The first conversation I really remember with you, because I knew you earlier. I mean, this was before the show, and we had been friendly. Is you came up to me in the old 50th Ward Democratic office, and I have no idea why I was there at that particular. Probably to see Bernie
Which one was
Stone.
that? Is that on Devine Avenue, Western Avenue, Howard Street?
I
There
was
were so
trying-
many of the
I
old
was
50th
trying to
Ward.
remember. It was a large office. Well, the year, of course, would have been 87.
I think we were then on. We were up on Howard Street then.
That could be. There was
Yeah.
a large room in the back. That
Yeah.
I remember.
That's right.
And you came up to me and you told
No,
me.
we were on Devine Avenue still then.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
So you came up to me and you said you're running for commissioner for Water Rec, and I knew you didn't have official support, and I just thought in my head.
And you said, "What's that?"
Oh, I knew what that was.
It was still sanitary district back then.
It was. You're right. It was sanitary district. And I said, and I just thought in my head, he doesn't have a chance in hell. So anyway, but you know what? I told you I'd back you. I did.
Yes,
I
you
voted
did.
for you
Yes, you
several
did.
times.
I appreciate that.
If there was a Jewish Chicago that year, and there might have been, I know I backed you.
And I think you even told the then state's attorney that you voted for me several times too, right?
I did.
Dick Devine? No, it was Rich Daly back then.
And I was friendly with Rich Daly too at the time. So no, because I together with Mike Moses, speaking of ghosts from the past, we used to walk daily around to the Jewish schools when he first ran for mayor.
Okay.
So that's how I met a whole bunch of my Irish friends. But you know what? It's interesting. In the early days, you were the first person I ever had on from Water Reclamation. The show's about 21 years old at this point, into our 22nd year, whatever that means. And I remember, I don't remember the exact count. I think you said there were something like 24 different fish in
Different species of fish, yeah.
and now it's up to 68.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's been on that holding pattern for a long time. It's 68. It's really
Well, we have
disappointing.
one additional one that's trying to get in, but we won't let it in. And that's the Asian carp.
But you know what?
I know.
I want to tell you something. Sonny and I went fishing.
There you go. Did you get one of each?
We found the 69 species. I'm serious. Okay? I would like to introduce you to the wild gefilte.
There you go.
1 pound, 10 ounces.
Caught in the North Shore Channel. Really? There you
Absolutely.
go. That must have been the fish when we were pulling away with the boat. That guy
Right.
was pulling out of the river. You guys went back and got it.
We went back and got it.
It's a little chilly. Must be because of the weather.
Well, you know, I caught it a few days ago. I've been trying to, keep it preserved for you.
Well, thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
I'll add that to the list tomorrow. My
Yeah, no,
last
it
board
goes,
meeting.
It goes well with carrots and a little bit of horseradish.
It's like corned beef and cabbage, right?
Yeah. Well, for us, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're
So-
into corned beef too. So
I know. But no, it's like I said, you've had me on for, well, ever since you've been in existence, and
Yeah.
I've been around, and my hair's gotten a little grayer, and
No.
my waistline's got a little bigger. But
No.
you know.
By the way, I want to tell
So
you
when you
I
go
look at-
back and look at your clips, you can see the
I-
changes.
I was looking at some of the early clips of the show yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it's amazing how. Some of us have changed a little bit.
Oh yeah. Well, and the startup of your show. I mean, it's got. With
I mean,
the
Sonny
mayor
was a
and-
total redhead. I was quite a bit thinner.
It's all right. It's all paid for, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That's
So anyway, in terms of there was a scandal in the Water Rec District, okay, and people wanted clean government. Now, most people don't realize to this day that you were not elected with Democratic organization support at all.
Correct.
I mean, not even your own committeeman.
Yeah, I was. I ran as an independent. I did have some committeeman support throughout the county, but I wasn't the endorsed candidate. And I think at that time there was probably 10 candidates on the ballot. We ended up with good ballot position, which was third. So if Russ Stewart is watching this TV show, he always puts me as first. It was third, Russ. I
Yeah.
was behind George Sutton and George Magala, who were the two candidates in front of me.
Well, Russ doesn't get too much straight.
So
And I think he would watch the show if he actually knew how to tune the TV and get it on at the right time.
I mean, it might not have cable yet. So,
Yeah, probably true.
but yeah, and we did it with friends such as yourself and other people that I know from the community here, as well as throughout the county, and we were successful. We got the number of petitions we needed to get on the ballot, and then once we were on the ballot, we went through the lottery as far as ballot selection, and as I said, we ended up successful. Ended up winning along with Joe Gardner and Harry Buscherell, who was the former recorder of deeds who ran for the Water Rec that year. And,
Oh, yeah.
And Jim Curie was the odd person out. So, and Jim had been on the board for 18 years and chairman of finance.
So, I mean, were you surprised to find yourself in a position to be president at that time?
Well, I didn't become president until 1997.
Which is
um,
about 9 years in.
9 years after, yeah. Nick Mellis at that time when I got on the board was president. He lost in 1992, and then Tom Fuller took over in 1993 as the president, and then ran into some legal difficulty and left in 1996, and then I assumed the presidency in 1997 and have been ever since. So, it's time to leave when people come up to you and say, you're the only president we've ever known. So
Wow.
when I heard that a couple years ago, I said, okay, start thinking.
Well, one thing I'll tell you, when I had Frank Avila on the show, who's one of the commissioners, and initially you guys weren't coming from the same direction.
No.
And when he was on the show, when he talked about the upcoming,
It wasn't personal. It
No, it
was
wasn't
all
personal, it was
business.
political,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, exactly.
No, it's and by the way, that's something that a number of people need to understand, including people in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
But
What
it
happens
is
in the
business.
boardroom and
it's business.
is business related. Leave it there.
No, but
I
I'm
mean,
also talking about that he ran as he also ran.
independent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not alluding to a personal fight, because one thing about the water rec It's about the only good-run agency in the state, and I'm not exaggerating.
Well, in my tenure as president, I've always preached that we work together as a team.
Yeah.
I always call us Team 9 because, first of all, we all have that responsibility. We're all elected by the public to serve and do what we have to do on a daily basis to protect the health and safety of the residents of this region. So, and I always thought that everybody should have a say in what goes on.
Yeah.
And rather than one person, being the dictator. So, never operated that way, and never have even in the private sector. I think everybody should be involved in the process of what we're going to do and how we're going to set policy and what we're going to set as policy. I just thought it was always important, and I always delegated things to my colleagues from the standpoint of sitting on other boards. Public Building Commission.
Yeah.
It was always the president of our agency who served on that board with the mayor, the county board president, and numerous other governmental agencies. But I always felt that, I could always give that to one of my colleagues and let them serve, on that particular board. I mean, they've got the same amount of authority that I have, and that's one vote at the Water Rec. We did that with our finance board, our civil service board. I always delegated to other members of the board, so they're all participated in the process.
Yeah, the thing I was going to say that what Avila said was, and I wasn't meaning to say that like he was your enemy or anything like that, but I'm just saying he came from a different side of town, is that when he was on the show not that long ago, he talked about the serious brain drain that's about to happen in the Water Rec, and he pointed, the only name he mentioned was you.
Yeah, well, I've been there 24 years, 16 as president, but, there are people that are, the district's not going to go downhill after I leave. There are people that are there.
I hope not.
It's just, everybody's got to learn. Like I said, when I came in after Tom Fuller, I didn't have any assistance, but you got to be willing to put the time in and to learn and listen as to what's going on. And whether it's you're talking to the employees or whether you're talking to the managerial staff of the district or your colleagues on the board, you got to take that all into consideration. You got to learn. You got to learn about the process. You got to learn about what we're doing. You want to learn about what we're doing in Springfield. You want to learn what we're doing in Washington. So, but you got to be willing to put the time in. And a lot of people have come up to me to say, who do you think should be your successor? And I'm like, well, I don't really have a vote. But I said, whomever that successor is needs to spend time at the district. Because it's also important from a perception standpoint with regards to the employees. If they see you around the agency every day or day in and day out, you earn their respect. And they feel that you care about the agency, so that makes them work a little harder in their positions and working for the agency. So I would just hope that whoever, takes over for in my position as president is spending some time there and with the agency.
I hope so. Let's talk about some of your accomplishments over the course of time. Now, how many people have you laid off during your tenure?
We've never laid anybody off, and we've never had to furlough anybody or asked people to take furloughs. That's one thing that a lot of governmental entities have had.
Almost every single government agency.
I mean, there's been times when through attrition, we've not filled a position, which, like I said a couple of years ago when I was running for another office, when I started there, we had 3,000 employees. Today, we're down to about 1,900. And it's because of the efficiencies and the technology, the changes in technology that's kind of allowed us to do that with a little more automation, computerization, things of that nature, which we've taken advantage of. But we've got a very professional workforce, all of them who are there by what they know and not who they know, which makes our lives easier as far as managing the whole
Yeah, one thing
operation.
I got to say is when I've gone to places where I can, talk to the guys, to talk to like the engineers and all the rest of it and been in that situation, these guys really know their stuff.
Yeah.
Really know their stuff.
And they really care about the agency.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like family. When I'm doing my farewell tour now to all the different treatment plants, and there are people that are there, and enjoy coming to work because they enjoy what they're doing and they work together. There's a camaraderie, and it makes life easier. I mean, nobody likes to get up in the morning and worry about having to go to work. So, but
you've also got a really good record of people who've worked there 20 years or more, which, that kind of continuity gives you a knowledgeable person who really knows what they're doing.
Well, when I said 24 years, I'm like, how many companies even last 24 years anymore? Let alone people working for employers for that period of time. Yes, I mean, when our parents grew up, they were there 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But you don't see that anymore.
No, not at all. Isn't it? Yeah, everybody's got their own 401k or whatever it is, and they're going from place to place to place.
Sure, they're jumping around.
And there's no more lunches. As a matter of fact, unfortunately, more and more companies, and there's been, even before the presidential election, more and more companies are limiting people to 25 hours or less so they don't have to pay benefits. And right after the election and the Democrats won, there was more and more companies that came out and said, hey, we love you, we love our employees, but we have no choice.
Yeah.
And more people are not going to be full-time employees.
Well, and that's the whole situation. I feel sorry for these kids that are coming out of school nowadays. Yeah. I mean, a lot of them coming out in debt because they've got student loans, but none of them have jobs. I mean, what are they going to do? I know a lot of them are thinking about going back to school and furthering their knowledge and their education, whether going to law school or getting their master's, but they're getting further and further into debt.
I know people that are 60 years old that still have student loans.
Yeah. It's not an easy situation. I mean, I got out in '78. It was a similar situation, but not as bad as it was today.
Yeah, no, it's gotten much, much worse. There's no question about it. Well, let's talk about some of your accomplishments. What do you feel are your accomplishments during your terms of office?
Well, I think the biggest accomplishment that we were able to deal with was taking over stormwater management. It took us 7 years to get that responsibility from the county board over to the water reclamation
so
district.
This is additional responsibility with
to what our original responsibility was as far as just treating wastewater and protecting Lake Michigan. But now, and when I became president in 1997, my first thing was to go meet with President John Stroger then, who was president of the county board, and say, would you be willing to relinquish this authority if we can get the responsibility from Springfield? We would have needed a resolution from the county board presented to Springfield so that they would be willing to, give it to us. And it took us 7 years from the mere fact that part of accepting that responsibility or those additional responsibilities from what we were already doing was we wanted the funding to go along with it. Because to have the responsibility and not fund that responsibility, it would be just another unfunded mandate, which nothing would ever happen. So it wasn't until Emil Jones then became president of the Senate that we were able to inform him and educate him on what we're trying to do and to get the funding. Because the speaker had always been supportive of us taking it over, and it was the problem with the Senate is where we couldn't get enough votes to get that passed. And again, the reason we did it was because a lot of people thought that was our responsibility in the first place. And I was tired of getting blamed for something that we didn't have the responsibility for, so that's why I talked to Stroger, and then we went to Springfield to get that authority changed.
Not that many people know that much about the agency other than the deep tunnel or, and there's a lot of misconceptions about it.
Yeah. But it's like I said, it's been a board effort. I mean, financially, we have a AAA bond rating still. I said you look at some of these other agencies and even the state being downgraded by these bond rating agencies.
Yeah, the state now has a lower rating than some third world countries.
Yeah, I mean we got a AAA bond rating. This year, going into 2013, we just had the budget presentation to the board from our staff, and I just introduced a motion to keep the aggregate levy at the same adjusted level in 2012, moving forward to 2013. So there won't be a tax increase. We do have enough funds available due to interest earned on our monies to deal with the situation in hand with our pension fund, with our reserve claim fund, with our other post-employment benefit funds, as well as running our operations on a day-to-day basis.
But in translation, you're the only place in the state too that doesn't have a pension problem.
Exactly. Well, we're the only place in the state that got their pension legislation passed.
Yeah. And
it didn't happen until the last day.
Well, even we did talk about the legislation being passed, but the fact is not just getting the legislation passed, but the fact of the matter is that you actually paid into it, unlike a lot of other people.
We never took a holiday, is what happened. I mean, when times were good, the city, the state, the county, they took the holiday because the money was coming in and everyone was flush with money. But we never did. And I've got to credit a lot of people for how this whole legislation got passed, and that includes our leaders in Springfield, Mike Madigan, John Cullerton, Tom Cross, and Christine Rodonio on the Republican side, our governor for signing the bill, but also labor. I mean, we sat down with labor 2 or 3 times before we even brought this to the leaders in Springfield, because I wanted to make sure that they were okay with it and they were in line with what we're doing. And the nice thing about it, majority of the labor people understood where we were coming from because they sit on their own pension fund boards. So they knew the economy and the way it's been and the way it has been going, that, we were strapped, financially from investments and things of that nature. And that we had, as an employer, continued to pay in and never took that holiday from not paying in. So I think that was a big selling point to them, saying, we need more participation from your members, from the non-representative members that work at the Water Reclamation District, as well as the agency participating more in the process. And because we did that, we were able to get that legislation passed out of the House, 109-0, and out of the Senate, 50-2.
Wow.
50 to 0-2, 2 people voting present. So people that had never even voted on our legislation from the 16 years I've been down there voted on this particular package. And I think they looked at it and wanted to send a message to a lot of people and say, here's a small governmental agency who's got a problem with their pension fund, but they're willing to take and address that problem themselves, rather than coming to Springfield looking for money or anybody else. And I think what they were looking at is the fact is now this is something that they can use to some of these other governmental entities, including school districts.
That would be nice,
Yeah.
because this, you know what, I remember you talk, well, this state is a mess, let's just put it that way.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, agreed. So, I mean, what about the deep tunnel? The deep tunnel was something that you actually, as a youth, you were, busy digging.
Well, as I alluded to earlier here in the show, that in 1978 the economy wasn't the greatest, and one of my first jobs out of college was actually working on this tunnel project as a miner. And
Now, how many feet?
and people look at it, 300 feet underground.
I was going to ask, you know what? Well, first of all, you were there with the shovel. Did you actually have to go the 300 feet yourself down?
Yeah, drill, and we loaded dynamite to blast the rock.
Yeah.
So.
You got any leftovers?
No. And it was questionable, some of the people that were going down there who were actually loading the dynamites and putting the caps, the ignition caps into the dynamite.
Yeah, we actually saw some of that with you. When we went to, when we were down in Thornton.
The quarry.
The quarry next door, they blast away and the rock, and then material services, I think,
Yeah, they're utilizing the rock for construction resources, whether it's
which gives you a cheaper
concrete.
dig.
Yeah. Well, and it's an agreement that we worked out with the people that own those quarries that we're utilizing for the end result on the reservoirs.
Yeah, how many gallons are you up to in Thornton now?
Well, Thornton will go online in 2015, and that will provide 8 billion gallons in storage of not only stormwater but wastewater from that region.
I think when we were there, you were about
We went-
3.5.
That was the transitional reservoir, which
Yeah.
was just a stormwater reservoir. That was in that
Right,
West
but
Lobe.
you did show us what it was
Yeah,
going to be that they
where
were working on.
the
so-
eventual composite reservoir was going to be. And that was in operation back in 2003 is when we first put that West Lobe into operation, and we had 3.5 billion gallons of storage. Because we put that in place, the insurance policies for the homeowners in that area with regards to flood insurance decreased 50%, because there was this relief effort here opening that transitional reservoir. And then the board took the position, because we were concerned about federal dollars coming in on a timely manner and meeting up with the construction schedule of the Corps. We advanced the federal dollars for that particular project so we could get the composite reservoir done without losing the benefit of the transitional reservoir. So 2015 we'll have another 8 billion gallons of storage for the southern part of Cook County online.
And just so people understand how much rain, what's an inch of rain in the Chicagoland area?
Inch of rain throughout the county is 15 billion gallons.
15 billion gallons. So that'll basically take care of a little over half an inch.
Yeah.
But total combined, you guys will be able to take over an
We'll
inch
be over
a year.
20 billion. Yeah. And the thing is, and everybody's like, well, this whole deep tunnel project was supposed to take care of flooding. We got to remember one thing. We're building the resources for the communities to send this water to, but you got to have the conveyance system in place to be able to move that water from the neighborhoods into our interceptors, into the tunnels, eventually into these reservoirs. The local sewer systems in Chicago and throughout the county can only handle 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain. So when we have these 5-inch rains, 6-inch rains, this water seeks its first open spot. And
You were
normally
the
that
first
open
person
spot.
who ever told me that we have these 100, use the phrase which is common now.
Oh,
100-year rains about
every
twice
year.
a year.
Yeah. Well, this was the first summer. I didn't have to go down on a weekend,
Yeah.
But
Oh,
the
that's-
last 2 summers, a day apart. 2010, it was July 24th. In 2011, it was July 23rd. 5 to 6 inch rainstorms. And I think everybody remember the pictures on TV. Western suburbs were underwater. Westchester was like Venice, Italy.
Yeah.
They were using boats to get in and out of people's homes and down the streets. That's how bad it was.
Well, I remember even, I don't remember the year, but even not far from here in Albany Park,
In 2008,
I mean,
September
there were-
12th and 13th.
there were boats right near Kimball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was, that whole area was underwater because the North Branch of Chicago River overflowed its banks. So,
So basically, it's like the idea that if we have 4 or 5 inch rains that everything's cured. I mean, if God wants to flick his finger, it's kind of rough.
yeah, yeah. But we've been, just from the standpoint of the finances, I talked about the AAA, we've been able to abate over $300 million back to the taxpayers just from the time. Well, I go from 1991 to 2000 was the last numbers that I had. So I don't know another governmental agency that can say that they've done that for
Well,
their
I don't think they could
constituents.
say they rebated a single dollar for the most part.
And a lot of it, a lot of people will say, well, because you're over budgeted. That's not the case. It's the investments that we've made on those dollars that we've received from the taxpayers. And we've had some big settlement payouts as well, which helps. And, we don't like to get piggish, so, we do give that money back to the taxpayers.
Which I think is nice. And by the way, for those of you who requested another trip to the deep tunnel, we really couldn't because it's kind of in use right now.
Yeah, you can go brown water rafting if you want. We'll drop you in at Wilmette, and you can flow down the main channel to McCook, and eventually come out in that big bathtub, which will be the McCook Reservoir. So,
Yeah.
why don't we wait till that's done so you don't hit the wall of the pumping station now?
Yummy. Well, you know what? You're not going to be there anymore, but whoever's taking over, if
Well,
you want to take us for a tour, take
Yeah,
us
we
for a
can.
tour.
The one thing I did want to do for you guys was to get you into one of the treatment plants, and just kind of get you through the process of how we treat wastewater, where it comes in, what tanks it goes to after, and I think it would be a great show for you guys to show your residents. But
I'd love to
then we
do
ran
that.
into that 9/11 situation, so it was a couple years ago when we finally opened the plants up. Because I just said, one thing everybody always complains about is the odors from our plants, but when we bring them in and we show them our operations, it doesn't really smell that bad in here.
Yeah.
And it's because the water's aerobic. We're constantly aerating it. We're speeding up the Mother Nature's process and treating it. So, it isn't bad. I mean, it's when the water sits and becomes septic, and anaerobic, that's when it starts to create the odor problems. But I will be happy to arrange that for you. I still know a few people there, so.
Great. That'd be super. Well, at this time, Mickey's hands are really running out. So, you know what? Even though you're not going to be in government anymore, at least who knows? I mean, hopefully you'll be the next president of the United States. We need a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the only person I ever met who actually could balance a budget for an agency.
There you go.
I'd love to see you come back on the show. And
I would love to come back on.
Whatever
Abby.
we talk about, we talk about. And
I can't thank you and Sonny enough for your years of support.
well, first of all,
with
we're
me
just
sitting
telling
in
the
this
truth and
seat,
showing
so-
good taste.
Well, but I thank you both.
Hey, it's our pleasure all the way.
And you too, Marty.
Hey, Marty. Anyway, no, we want to thank you very much, Terry O'Brien.
Thanks, Abby.
Retiring president of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. Oh, it wouldn't be a show if I didn't go, hi, Kathleen, how you doing? And I want to thank Sonny, want to thank everybody. Stay tuned next week, and bye-bye, everybody.